Hey y'all, Dom here from Faith Family Homestead, and if you caught my last video, you know that I am going to be starting some seeds to be cold stratified, and so in today's video I'm going to be talking all about that and what cold stratification is. Cold stratification is just simply put when you take some seeds and they have to be put through a freezing and thawing process. You can either do that naturally or you can do that by manually. By what I'm going to be doing is by putting them in the freezer and keeping them frozen for a week, 2 weeks, or even a month, and then when they come out and they thaw, they will sprout. Some flowers and herbs need this process in order to sprout, and so that's the seeds that I'm going to be starting today. I have my seeds right here, and what I did was I do want to have cut flowers for this next coming spring 2022 season, and so I just went through and wrote down all the cut flowers varieties I had, and then I labeled if they were cold tolerant or if they needed to be cold stratified. And so I separated them all yesterday, ones that needed to be cold stratified. And some of these are not cut flowers, but they're just flowers I want to grow because I do want to have a garden that is filled with flowers and vegetables, just beautiful things that the bees will love and pollinate. I do have some milkweed here. I have 4 different varieties. I have some blueberry seeds. I've never started blueberry seeds before, but that should be interesting. I tried to start strawberry seeds last year, and I know that they needed to be cold stratified, and I did get a lot to sprout, so I'm going to try blueberry. I have Orlea, white lace Orlea. I have some echinacea. I have white and purple. I have larkspur. I have bells of Ireland. I have borage, lavender, St. John's wort, marshmallow, angelica, valerian, yarrow, eucalyptus, and some dara. So I have all of those seeds, and basically I just went through, like, some of them say on the packet that they want to be cold, chill the seeds. Like this one says tips, chill seeds 40 to 45 degrees, 1 to 2 weeks prior to sowing in the greenhouse. Some of them say cold treat 3 to 4 weeks. And yeah, so I just basically went through and found all of the seed packets that needed cool temperatures in order to germinate, because a lot of these seeds take anywhere from 12, 10, 8, or 6 weeks to before you want to send them outside. My last frost date here in South Carolina is usually April 1st, and so when I count back 12 weeks from there, that puts me about January 7th, which is also the time that I'm going to be starting my pepper seeds, because peppers take a long time to germinate and to get big. So that's the time that I'm going to be starting my peppers as well. If you hear any background noise, we did just get 2 kittens, so they're running around playing, and they have collar bells on their neck, and we also have chickens in our living room until my husband built their coop. So let's get started. I didn't mention the other way that you can cold stratify seeds. It's by putting them outside in fall, and so as the temperatures freeze and thaw and freeze and thaw, by springtime they will sprout, and then that's the natural way that you put the seeds through cold stratification, by just putting them out in fall. I don't know about you, but I like to be in control over when my seeds are sprouting. Like, I want to know that they had enough chill hours and that guarantee that they're going to sprout. And then also, when you're putting them out in fall, you don't really know, like, I feel anxious, like, oh my goodness, are they gonna sprout? You know, did I do it right? Did the water wash away the seeds? And so basically, just to avoid all of that, that's why I am manually starting these seeds indoors and then putting them in the freezer. So if you're like me, then this process is for you. Another way to cold stratify seeds is by winter sowing, is what I did last year. Is when you just put the seeds inside some soil, moisten the soil, and then you put the seeds on top of the soil, and then you cover it. So some of the things that I used were like these leftover like the rotisserie chicken comes in, and I just filled it with soil, moistened it, and then put the lid on top and just sat it outside, and as it froze, and then the sun heated up, it's like made a little greenhouse, and I had a lot of seeds sprout this way. I think all of the seeds that I tried sprouted this way. Another way you can do it is by getting milk jugs. That a very popular way that I've seen. I did that as well, where you just cut gallon milk jugs in half, fill it with soil, moisten it, put the seeds inside, and then close it back. Seeds will go through the freezing and thawing process, and then when it is had a right amount of chill hours, it will naturally sprout, and then you can take it from there when it is time. It's hot enough for the seeds to be able to be out in the garden, and then you can transplant them. Since we didn't have a big garden, I had a lot of them in containers. Actually, all of my plants were in containers. And so I didn't and we were in a shady spot in our camper, so I didn't get a lot of blooms last year. But this upcoming season, I'm really excited because I'm going to be starting these, and I look forward to having lots of blooms. I have my seeds all laid out right here. Some things I'm gonna need are paper towels, moist paper towels, some Ziploc bags to put the paper towels in. I have a permanent marker. I have some painter's tape because I think I'm going to put the painter's tape on the sandwich Ziploc bags and write the name and the date on them. That's what I'm going to do now. I could have gotten some soil and then laid it down, moistened it, put the seeds on top, and then put that container inside of a Ziploc bag in my freezer. With that way, you're like kind of skipping a step, because after I take these out of the Ziploc bags with the paper towels, the moistened paper towels out of my freezer, then I'm going to have to transfer them into some soil. I have all the bags marked, so what I'm going to do next is I have this cup of water right here. I have my cut napkins. I'm just going to take them, dip them in the water, and then put them in each bag. So I'm actually changing methods. What I'm doing is taking the dry paper towel and sticking it into the Ziploc bag, and then, because it's so much easier to go in that way. And then once I lay the seeds down on it, I'm gonna take a spray bottle, and that's how I'm gonna moisten the paper towel and the seeds. The next thing I'm going to do is go through each seed packet and see how long the seeds need to be cold stratified for. Like this one says, which is Dara, and it says only 1 to 2 weeks, but I know some of them, this Bells of Ireland says 2 to 4 weeks. So I'm just going to go through and find the time that it needs to be in the freezer for, and then I'm going to write it on the label, and then I'm also going to take a note of it so that I know when to check on these. Some things to look out for to know if your seeds need to be cold stratified is wording on the packet if it doesn't tell you. Sometimes it says if you're in a warm or mild climate to start in fall. If you were going to start it in fall, that's basically telling you that the seeds will be freezing and thawing process, which is cold stratification. Also, it tells you late fall, or for winter blooms, or if it tells you If it's a perennial basically means a seed that doesn't die. So we have annuals that bloom or flower, or if it's a vegetable, for a certain amount of time, and then they die when it gets cold. But then we have and then they don't come back. But then we have perennials, which flower or grow if it's just greenery, and then when the winter comes they can die back, but then they'll rebloom in the following spring whenever it's the right temperatures for them. So another way to know if your seeds need to be cold stratified is if it's a perennial and if it doesn't say it on the packet. Like this echinacea, this specific one does not say that it needs cold stratification, but the other packet does. This one just says that it's a perennial and that you can direct sow in fall. Direct sow means that you can plant it straight into your garden. That doesn't mean that it's going to grow right at that moment, but that means that even if it does sprout, that it may not die if it's cold or freezes, but that it might just go dormant and then start re-blooming or flowering or growing in the spring when it gets warm. And so those are some things to look out for to know whether or not your seeds need to be cold stratified if it doesn't tell you on the pack. Temperatures say refrigerate for, and then some say a temperature like 35 degrees, some say freeze. I know with rosemary, you don't necessarily have to get it down to freezing temperatures, but on the packet it does say that it best germinates in 55 degrees, which is still pretty cooler than other plants that maybe need 70, 65, 75 degrees to germinate. Right now what I'm going to do is start going through each seed and see how many I want to plant for each one, because how many ever seeds I want is that's how much seeds, or to grow plants I want to grow, is how many seeds I'm going to want to cold stratify. So I have my book, my notebook with all of the flowers that I want it to grow and the spacing, you know, whether it's 6, 9, 12 inches, that's going to determine how many plants I want. I'm going to open this packet, see how many seeds is in here, determine how many seeds I want to be sown, and let's get through it. This is Orlea white lace. It looks like a Queen's Anne lace. It's a cut flower. It's going to bloom in the summer. It's going to grow 18 to 30 inches, and this is how many seeds were in the packet. I'm not going to count that, but I know I want to do all of these, so I'm just going to go ahead and separate them and put them in the bag. But I have them all in the bag, and I just use my hand to separate them. I am going to use my spray bottle and spray inside the bag. Now that the seeds are moist, I'm going to go ahead and close it. On some of the packets, it didn't say a time. It just said, like, you know, seeds benefit from cold stratification, moist / cold or freezing temps. And so on those, I just put 4 weeks. I think a month should be sufficient in order to get these seeds to germinate. So in about a month on some of these seeds, 6 weeks, 2 weeks, I'm going to be checking on these seeds, and then that's when I will transfer them into the soil that they're going to be in to start growing and sprouting. We have lots of more seeds to finish doing, so I'm going to put you on a time lapse and let's get started. So I got all that done. A lot of the seed packets didn't have a lot of seeds in them, so I just went ahead and dumped the remaining amount of seeds that were in the packets straight into the bags. But I am going to make sure I have all the information written down off of the seed packets into my notebook, like how many days to harvest, or the spacing, and then also how many weeks to start it before I transplant them outside. So that's what I'm gonna do right now. Finish that. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with me as I got all of these started. I'm going to now go ahead and take all of the seeds that we got, and I'm going to put them in the refrigerator or the freezer. And I guess part 2 of this video would be me taking them out and then planting them into the actual soil that they need. And so stay tuned for another video. A lot of these are going to be in the refrigerator or the freezer for a month, but I will take you guys along with me as I do that process as well. But this is the end of this video, so again, thank you so much for hanging out with me and taking the time out to hear this information, and I look forward to seeing you guys again.